In his private life, he illustrated every virtue of a Christian gentleman. Bright and cheerful by nature, he loved nature with the simple enthusiasm of a child. Industrious and systematic in a high degree, no moment of his life was wasted. That is the obituary of Samuel Hildreth, one of the characters from David McCullough's book, The Pioneers. This book is the story of the group of people that came and settled the first town in the Northwest Territory. This was Marietta, Ohio. And this book, one, is just an incredible story, but two is just full of examples to me of what a man should actually be. The end of it has all these different obituaries of these characters from the story, one of which I just read. Another one says, in hospitality, he was unsurpassed, fond of social intercourse, gifted with a ready flow of language, and a mind well stored with historical facts. His conversation was both instructive and interesting. Another one about a different man says, in every sphere and every relation of life, Judge Cutler was a useful man. Judge Cutler belonged to that class of strictly upright, honest, and true men, of whom the pioneers of this state afford so many noble examples. This story is just full of guys that you look at it and you're like, that is what a man should be. And the thing that stood out the most to me from reading about these guys is this idea that they were willing to work so hard, and the amount of capacity that they had to get work done, get physical work done, get mental work done was just ridiculous. You look at men nowadays and we're just a bunch of pathetic freaking weenies, right? You go and you read the stories about these guys, and one of the primary guys was Manasseh Cutler. He was kind of the guy that spearheaded this whole settlement and the whole idea behind the Northwest Territory and coming into there. This was the first place that it was part of the law and part of the established rule in it that slavery was not allowed. And that is solely because of this guy, Manasseh Cutler. He was the one that pushed this through. And then 3 generations, his son and his son after him, kept fighting to say, no, there's not going to be any slavery allowed in this. And we're going to establish this part of the country on these sound principles and this drive for higher education and this drive for religious freedom, even within the context of America and the principles that we had. They said, hey, we want to make this even higher standard in our area here. But Manasseh Cutler, David writes, in addition to all this, and more importantly, Manasseh Cutler was endowed with boundless intellectual curiosity. It may be said he was a university unto himself, ranking high among the notable polymaths of the time, those of great and varied excellence who took an interest in nearly everything. He had succeeded in becoming 3 doctors in one, having qualified for both the Doctor of Law and Doctor of Medicine, in addition to Doctor of Divinity, and having from time to time practiced both law and medicine. You move further on and you read about another character in the book, Samuel Hildreth, who, thanks to an uncle who had an extensive private library, he became extravagantly fond of reading, and in the course of 4 or 5 years read nearly all the books the library contained. And then he talks about going to school to study medicine, and he said, I generally read about 10 hours every day. And in the winter of the year 1803 to 04, he taught school to some 120 students, a severe task. He also kept up with his medical studies, reading 6 hours a day, and to do this had to rise at 4 a.m. and read by candlelight. When he was asked how it was that he could do so much and accomplish so much, he said, I've learned to use every one of all the odds and ends of time. And this dude knew all of this stuff. He studied all these things. And then you go on, and he also was a freaking artist and made watercolor paintings of caterpillars and butterflies and crap, right? I sit here, you guys, I read this book, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Men nowadays, we think our capacity is so freaking low that we sit here and we're like, oh man, like I worked like 8 hours today. Like, man, I'm tired. It's been a long week. I had a 10-hour day on Monday. I'm like, oh yeah, you did? It's like, yeah, I took the rest of the day off. I took the rest of the week off, But I'm like, dude, you sit here and you read these stories of these guys, and these guys, their day to day was subsistence living. Like their day to day was hunting or growing or doing something to all the food, to do every single thing that they had to do throughout the day. And then on top of that, they're getting 3 doctorates in their lifetime, right? They're absolutely the amount of emotional and physical and mental capacity and resilience that they had was just off the charts. And it's how I want to be, and it's how you should want to be, because it's what built the greatest country in the world. And in this case, it's what built the greatest area of the greatest country in the world at the time, right? It just everything that happened in this area where these men went, it was like the pinnacle of the American experiment and the American dream. Like, it was this whole area that didn't allow slavery. Long before we fought the Civil War and decided we weren't going to allow slavery, these guys, when they went to set it up, were like, no, from the get-go, we're doing this right, and we're doing this way, and we're not having all this other stuff. And they fought and they fought and they fought and they fought and they fought, and they stood on principle for all the things that they really cared about. And this is why I love history. This is why I love reading stories about guys who have just killed it in their life, and who have ended their life as a useful man, and who have ended their life living an industrious and systematic and a high degree with no moment of their life wasted. He was excellent in all his dealings, an honest man, a Christian. His was a complete life. He finished his work. I love this kind of stuff. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to live. This is how you should want to live. If you need a good book to encourage you in all this, check out The Pioneers by David McCullough. It was great. I loved it. You should definitely read it. That's all.